Hi, it's Jared from Strongrootsfarmoh. Today we are getting our cold weather gear on. We're going outside because we have a storm coming. So it looks super nice outside, but it is the Midwest. And believe it or not, tomorrow we are supposed to get 12 to 14 inches of snow and -degree weather, which is pretty rare for Ohio. I know you Colorado and Wyoming boys are laughing at me, but it's a big deal for us. And so this is something very different from our typical winter storm. So today we're going to go through and show you how we prep for a winter storm. And we know in the Midwest that, you know, the news guy, he might be completely wrong. We might do all this for nothing. But it is Saturday today, and so we typically do a little bit of over prepping anywhere on Saturday because we try not to work on Sundays. We try to have a day only for church and relaxing. We just do the bare minimum of chores on Sundays. So today we're going to go through and show you what we're doing for prepping for a storm. Whether you have bad weather coming and you're looking for what to do, or it's the summertime for you and you're just trying to prep your property for the winter, that's what's coming up today. Stick around. Well, welcome back. I appreciate everybody watching. There is many videos in my feeds lately about things like this. So I did a whole video on how to keep water from freezing. I've done winter videos on insulating chickens. We've done stuff about our barn and all kinds of other videos out there. But today you're gonna see parts of that, but I'm not gonna go into depth with it. But if you're looking for more education, scroll down through our videos, they're there. Okay, so first thing we did today was check all of our waters. And luckily we have our water systems pretty well in tune here. We know what's going on. And I will make another video about the automatic waterer, but we checked that very first. We came out this morning and like 8 cows were surrounding that thing. None of them were drinking. And I just found out it was a nice windbreak spot. They were all just kind of standing there, but it had me concerned from the kitchen window. So we checked the waters very first. Then we went through and we topped every water off as full as we could get it, just to give us a few days worth of water. And that is kind of our setup here. The water tank size that we use is 2 to 3 days worth of water for each animal in each sector that they're in. So the pig water is completely full, chickens' waters are full, cattle water's all full, and then these guys have an automatic water. They all have an electrical controlled de-icer. So as long as we come out and don't see ice on top, we're good. We know everything's good. We didn't kick a breaker, anything like that. So we started with the water. Next thing we're doing is bedding down. So we're giving them some extra bedding. So you can see my wife over here, hopefully. She's going through, wave at them, and there, I said wave. Like you act like you like somebody. Yeah, she's getting straw. So we put some extra bedding down out in our mobile chicken coop just to make sure there was no water for chickens to get their feet in and give them a little harder time to stay warm. And she about bit the dust. So we're gonna go along and spread some straw. So we've got these hog huts, or some people call them calf houses. And we're bedding those down real thick for our smaller calves. Same thing on this side over here. We've got a small calf hut that we've showed in other videos. We're gonna bed that down, put about 1 foot of loose straw in it. And then we're gonna bed down our barn again, which we did 3 days ago. It's not manure-y, it's not wet. Luckily our ground is frozen right now, but they could use some loose bedding to stay in and stay comfortable next to each other and get warm. So we're gonna put this is a 20 by 60 barn shed. We're gonna put about 4 or 5 bales of straw here. We put an extra one into the pigs, 1 into the chickens, and then 2 into these calves over here. So that's the next step as we prep to give them someplace nice to lay and keep them warm. All right, so the boys are in here shaking this out. Jenny's on that side. We've already got the calf shed over here filled up. Now we're gonna think about hay. And by all appearances, this thing is jam full. But they kind of have been eating at this front side. Now, is there plenty in here? Yes, there's 3 days worth in here. But I can squeeze 1 more bale in, so I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I want everything as max full as possible. And if you're in this situation, especially if you're used to putting out hay every day, this may be something where you would go ahead and sacrifice a round bale. They're gonna eat most of it, but take it and just set it on its end in the barn. And it's gonna give another windbreak if the wind just would happen to come this way. It's also gonna give them deeper bedding because they're gonna pull out what they don't like of it. and it's going to allow more to eat at one time. So they're really going to get their bellies full as it gets cold over the next couple days. Every time I put a bale in there, it doesn't appear to me that they waste a ton of it that isn't going into the bedding well. Like there's not a fluff of bedding that they walk through all the time. So do you waste a little bit of the round bale? Yes, but it's going back to bedding and per the cost of our round bale. So I paid $4 a square bale for straw, $35 for a round bale of hay. So if you have an abundance ability to buy hay, it's actually cheaper for me to bed with the hay than it is to bed with the straw. This straw is just easier for us to carry and move around. So you have to do that math yourself depending on your area and the cost of things. But we can put one in there if we want, and we may do that today. I may have these boys open this gate up for me. I'll go in, drop one on its end because it allows more to eat around it, and they kind of pull it away and then eat. And we'll get a little bit deeper bedding in there. And so it's just good for this cold weather and it allows more to eat. All right, so we've put extra hay inside like we talked about. We've filled the hay ring here, or the hay feeder, to the max. You can see that thing is piled full. Cows are coming up to check out what we did. They are not hungry. They're fat and fleshy. Everything's gonna be fine. But this is just winter prep. Kids are fighting with the gate. Need help? Get that taken care of here. So the crew's going in for lunch. We're playing in the snow apparently. So one piece of advice, and this is kind of, I stress this to my kids all the time. When you're doing stuff, especially in the winter, do everything to the max because you never know when you're going to get to come back. And so what do I mean by that? Just don't fill the water up enough for that day. Fill it up to the peak. You know, that water is 4 days worth of water for them. Don't just say, hey, I'm in a hurry. Here's a day's worth. Let's go do what we want to do today. Fill it to the peak every time. You never know what the weather's going to be like. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what kind of emergency is going to come about. So especially in the winter, you're out here, you're in your clothes, you're surviving the weather. Do it to the max, because today might be a different situation. Now, maybe that's a Midwesterner's talk, and that's the way things go around here. But my pig feeder is completely full. It's like a week and a half, 2 weeks worth of feed. The hay trough, that's 3 to 4 days, that hay feeder there. I even put an extra one in. All the waters are topped to the max, 3, 4, 5 days worth of water, depending on who they are. We topped the chicken feeders off. That's at least a week and a half, if not 2 weeks worth of feed for them. Everything is to the max. So if tomorrow is miserable, when we come out, we can go through, do a glance at everything, and snow is pelting us in the face and it's like a blizzard and my kids can't come out and help me. That's the day I can skip or just go and do the things I need to do. The other things that we didn't show on film today was hoses. And so obviously these hydrants, or these stock tanks, are filled with a hydrant that has a hose. And so we don't leave them run on an automatic water. They get filled and then we roll the hose back up. So you disconnect the hose from the hydrant, you run the air out of it twice if you're my kid, okay? Because they try to go too fast and the water doesn't all come out. Take your time, get that hose high, run every drop of water out of that hose, reel it back up, and then I take both ends and put them up in the air. So the end that connects to the hydrant, we connect back to the hydrant, because tonight it might slow in ice and the threads around there might get ice on it and it might get hard to connect. So when we have the opportunity to do it, we do it, and then we take the other end and we hook it up on the fence so that it doesn't get buried in ice and snow and we have to dig it out. It's just some of those preps that you learn over time, and it helps to have kids to yell out to say, oh, my dumb kid did this. And they're not dumb, they're highly intelligent. That's why they've learned how to do all this stuff. I didn't have to tell them 90% of this stuff today, but it's reiterating to the next kid, then the next kid down. And the ones that get older teach the younger ones. And you know, you learn these, and I learned this stuff because I made the mistake and left that hose unhooked one time. And then I had to screw it in and beat ice off of it and come out here with a heat gun, a battery powered heat gun. It's a mess. So I've just learned, do these things when you can. And then when it's bad, it gives you that opportunity to skip the day and just do the bare minimum, or prolong for an emergency. So that's kind of my advice to my kids. That's what we push here, and hopefully that helps you a little bit. So what are some other things that I didn't do today that you could do, or that you do to prep for a storm or emergency? Go ahead and put that down, in the comments. Let everybody know. Let us learn from each other. That's what our channel's about. So we did put out mineral and extra kelp. So we do a straight kelp meal. I know that Salatin talks against that. He talks about cutting it with salt so they don't just hammer it. And I find that yes, they will hammer it at certain times of the year if you dump it in straight. But if you keep it in front of them, my cows don't hammer it. Plus, Salatin only uses his mix, where we have the individual minerals, more like Greg Judy uses from Free Choice Enterprises. So my cows don't hammer the kelp. It's very expensive. It's $96 a bag for me. And I can get it cheaper if I buy 10 bags and have it shipped, but I buy it from my local feed mill, a family that I like. So we put extra kelp out. We do things like that for the winter prep. But there's some other things that I have thought about in the past, and you're gonna get to read these comments below and kind of get some ideas. Let's go into some of those. So the main 3 issues with nasty weather is wetness and wind, okay? So, and I know that's only 2, but wetness and wind, and then mud. And so mud is typically a good sign that it's warm enough, but mud is dangerous as far as animals getting stuck if it's too bad. So we prep for that. And then as it gets colder and it freezes, that actually helps us a little bit. But then we have to worry about wetness and wind. So the cattle can handle the cold, but they do not like to be cold and wet and cold and windy in the wind, and especially cold, wet, and in the wind. That's a tragic thing for them. So anything we can do to reduce those things. So let's think about if you had a gravity wagon and you could put it up somewhere against a fence. If you had 3 or 4 of them, that'd be awesome. And you could line them up and create a windbreak. So yes, we like to keep our stuff in the barn, protect our equipment, but anything that we could use during a storm that is coming, I would open those doors in those gravity wagons so water and snow would come out, but I would pop those things in a line and create a nice windbreak if I had that, if I didn't have a natural windbreak set up. I could even put tarps on my gates. So go buy some $10 tarps at Harbor Freight. Zip tie them to your gates. They're probably not gonna last long. You can put plywood up. If you have scrap plywood laying around, lay it against your fence, drill a hole in it, put a zip tie around it. Anything you can do to create a windbreak, put a windbreak up from them. IBC totes, you got them laying around your farm like we do, line them up, create a small windbreak anywhere so that you can get all 4 sides. Depending, in the Midwest, the wind changes a lot at times for us, but typically you're gonna know which way the wind is gonna blow in. So anything you can do to create a windbreak. If the wind was gonna come in this direction, maybe I'd just stack my firewood here, stack some extra firewood there. Anything I could do to create a windbreak for them is gonna help. Water. We have to look at how to protect their water. So I had that entire video on how you keep water from freezing. Water is one of the hardest chores. It's heavy. It gets you colder because it's wet, obviously. It creates problems, and it will get your animals the sickest the quickest. If they do not have clean drinking water, good access to water, it will cause them problems. It will clog them up. It will create bloat. They need to be able to drink. And so you can watch that video, but you understand you got to get all of your water, have good access at all times. And I'm going to make a video coming up right after this about an automatic watering system. And so if you're prepping for cattle and you're looking at watching this saying, how do we prep to be ready for winter? Looking at our mistakes, looking at the things and the work that we have to do, an automatic water that is electricity free and that does not freeze is a great addition to your farm. But you can watch the video. There's lots of other things. There's lots of other methods out there to keep your water from freezing. Last thing in keeping them dry is obviously some type of shelter. And so barns are expensive. Greg Judy says you don't need a barn. Okay, he's in Missouri. He's a lot further south than I am. There are pros and cons to barns, okay? So you can catch if you have enough carbon, you can catch those nutrients, spread them where you need. Greg Judy talks against manure spreading. Now, I'm not saying that Greg Judy is wrong. Don't get me wrong. I've bought animals from Greg Judy. I've talked to him multiple times. I've read books. I watch his channel. He's a great guy. But there's certain settings of context that change things, and there are pros and cons to everything that you look into, and you have to choose what's right for you. So is it a con that I have to spend a day spreading a manure once or twice a year? Yes, that's a con. I have to spend 12 to 16 hours a year spreading manure on my field. Is it positive for my field? Yes. Is it a positive protection for my cattle? Yes. So those are all pros. Can I capture that manure and better isolate it in carbon and take cheap carbon, free wood chips, free sawdust, cheap old hay from somebody? That's a cheap carbon source. Can I take that, turn it into a great compost, and increase the organic matter on my farm very quickly by spreading manure and having a barn? Yes. Does it relieve a lot of stress on me as the farmer to have a barn and know that my animals are taken care of, that there's, I don't have to go out and search for calves laying next to a tree in the winter? Yes. So there's lots of pros and cons, and obviously I'm showing more pros to the barn because it works better for me in my small farm mentality. I work a regular job. I do other things with life, and I'm not a huge rancher, okay? So I don't have 1,000 acres. A barn facilitates my farm better. So context is everything. I say that all the time. So choose. Is a barn gonna help relieve your stress? Is it worth the money? Is it gonna help facilitate your farm better? Or would you rather save that money and do more ranching and just create some windbreaks and allow your cattle to rotate through grass and survive during the winter? We do everything here. We unroll hay, we rotate through grass, but there comes a time in the winter that it's better for me to have a barn. You just have to make that choice for yourself. When I first started, and I'm gonna answer this question, and if you've been a farmer for a long time, you might laugh at me, but when I was a beginner, I wondered, do cattle need heat? Do I need to have a heater in a barn? Do I need to heat it in some source to give them, to get their bodies warm? Well, here's the one thing a heater or a barn, another pro for a heater or barn that Salatin has talked about recently, and I really like this point. The more I keep them from using their body energy to maintain heat, the more weight I keep on them and the less food I have to put in them. So would a heater help? Yes. Do I have one? Absolutely not. It's because a heater is expensive. Either I have to pump it full of wood or propane or natural gas, whatever it would be to run a heater. My cattle don't need a heater. If they can get out of the wind and have a roof over them, they are sufficient. And really, when I go into a barn that has a small opening and it's full of cows, it's warm in there. You can feel the body heat coming in and heating that room. So I've never had a heater. I've seen -8 at this farm and -20 in my life while cattle farming. So that can give you some perspective. If you're -60, I don't know, maybe a heated barn would help. Some source of heat to get those cows all in. I'm not sure, you have to judge that yourself. But just so you have perspective on what you should do, -8, that's what we're supposed to see this week again. I don't think we're gonna have a problem. I don't have a heater, I'm not worried about it. I did the prep stuff today. So as a beginner, I worried about that. That is no longer even in my thought process of should I be heating a barn for cows to be in. They're made to be in this. Well, there you have it. I hope that video helped. We're prepped for the winter all around here, but when we're having to prep for a blizzard coming in or a big snowstorm, to help us not to have to come out for so long, not to have my family dragged out, and to better protect my animals. These are the things that we've done today, and so I hope these things, as you saw us do them, can help you. And the thought processes that we talked about towards the end of the video, if you stuck around all the way here till the end, I appreciate that. Hopefully those kind of conversations helped you as well. Please comment, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked or didn't like about this video, or if you still had questions that we can talk about in another video. We appreciate you watching. Stick around for all of our other videos. We do have some videos coming up on an automatic water. I have an exciting video that I've been studying for about 3 weeks on the difference between steers and heifers. So if you're gonna buy calves, stockers, 400 to 500 pound calves to raise to butcher on your farm, should you buy steers or heifers? What's better and why? So I've looked into the data. So that's another video we do have coming up soon. We appreciate all the comments and all the likes and everything that everybody's done. And if you've liked this video, please, that does really help our channel if you hit that like button. Till next time, thanks a lot for watching.